Hey y'all! On this episode of WoW, we have a revenge six-woman tag team match, and then we actually just have more matches on this episode in general than we normally have. It was a pretty power-packed episode of the show, and we are here to talk about it. This is Steph and Kat Talk WoW.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Making her way to the mic. They start dimming the lights. You start feeling alright. From Birmingham, home of the Teddy Longs, and the room is stutters. More once you discover. For all of the lovers, Whitney Houston and Roman Reigns. For all of the lovers, and Mickey James and Marvin Gaye. For all of the lovers, and Sasha Banks, Janelle Monáe, Silk, Sonic, and Paige. Allow me to say, look, I just found a place, sweet escape for every one of us. I was kinda late, cause I just made it off the struggle bus. Walking by the faith, cause I know it's right in front of us. Yo, I ain't with the hate.
Hey y'all, welcome to a new episode of Steph and Cat Talk Wow, brought to you by the Hardy Wrestling Podcast and In Cat We Trust. Of course, I'm your girl, Stephanie Hardy, host and creator of HWP Live, and co-creator of this show. And of course, I am contributing writer for Daily DDT and color commentator featured on various wrestling promotions. But of course, I am not alone. I am with my fabulous co host and co creator of this fabulous show. She is the creator of In Cat We Trust. She is also an author and a writer for Daily DDT as well as a backstage correspondent, commentator, ring announcer. But most of all, she is a super mom. She is Katrina. How are you, Kat?
I am okay. Tired. Seems like that's the norm. But I am all right. Happy to be here.
Awesome. I totally get it. Like this has been um not really like it has been like a tiring couple of days depending on what you've got going on. Like it's been tiring for me as well, but hopefully, we'll be able to get some rest and relaxation because I was actually able to talk to one of my family members, my cousin, and I was telling her, just be careful not to run yourself ragged, even with all the things that you have going on for yourself. And it's just, you just got to take it easy while you're out here trying to make stuff happen. And that's just the most important thing. And I just hope that everyone is just doing that as, life is getting itself together. And we're actually at the point of the year where everything is getting ready to low key wrap up. Like September is on the way. And it's Virgo season, which is special for me because my birthday is next week. So it's going to be cool. It's Steffi season and it's September and it's Virgo season. So I cannot wait. And of course, everybody's ready for fall, but I'm not ready for that. So we're just going to move on. But thank all of you for watching our show live on all of our platforms. And of course, if you're not able to watch it live, you can watch it later on our YouTube channels on HWP and In Cat We Trust, and just be able to stream it after you watch the episode. So, Katrina, how did you feel about this episode of WoW?
Overall, I enjoyed it. I thought it was a good episode. I liked the matches we got. Um, it was like we had some new type of matchups, but we also had some meeting up again in some other aspects as well. So I thought it was a really good episode.
Yeah, it was a good episode and it was really different because normally we usually get at least four matches in an hour episode, but this time we actually had five, and that was just really interesting along with a lot of storyline stuff. But it was still very, entertaining, even, with some of the changes. And of course, we talk all the time about how WoW tries to up their game when it comes to their production. So they are definitely leaning more into that the further we get into the season. I'm sure we'll see more of it in season three, which will be coming relatively soon. So I'm really excited about that. So this is episode 102. And the name of this episode was Grudges, Embarrassment, and Rematches. So, of course, this episode started with the action and with the grudges and the rematches and the revenge when it came to top tier going up against Little J-Boogie, Steffi Slays, and Ariel Sky. Because of course they've had their grudges going on, for the past month because Top Tier has been bullying Ariel Sky. Ariel Sky's been standing up for herself, saying she's not going to have it, and she's had different iterations of friends taking up for her over the course of the last few months. And this time she had Steffi Slays and Lil J Boogie to come to her defense. And now hopefully we have reached a point where Top Tier will actually leave them alone and leave Ariel Sky alone, once this match has happened. But of course, if you are in the comments and if you saw this episode, you can comment on whatever part of the episode you liked. And you can also just tell us who your favorite WoW superhero is, and you might wind up on the screen. Or if you are shy, you're feel free to just watch the video. That's fine too. But everybody's welcome here. So with this match, I've really felt like this match should have been for the WoW Trios title, to be honest. But they went ahead and fought, and it was a non-title match. And they actually said something on commentary where they said that, according to Nigel, he said that they don't plan on defending it. And I'm just like, well, how you gonna call yourself the Trios champions, Top Tier, and you don't plan on defending your title? Like that sucks. That's just, that really just doesn't feed into you guys being Top Tier if you're not willing to defend the title. But I guess that's par for the course for them. So the match started with Crush and Little J Boogie. There was a little bit of a struggle between the two of them when it came to arm submission work, but then Little J Boogie was actually able to get the upper hand in the first few minutes of the match, with a unique cradle pin and arm drags to Crush. But then, of course, she did give a hot tag to Steffi, who was a little bit fiercer in this match than we have seen her be, in the past. Like, outside of her being motivated just, for revenge, she was definitely motivated to take up, for her friend Lil J Boogie as well as Ariel Sky. And she was using that fire to battle with all three members of Top Tier. And I had never seen Top Tier be so shaken, the way that they were with this match. Now, of course, there were a couple of times where they did take advantage and isolate Little J Boogie and keep her from tagging in. But once she was able to tag in again to Steffi, she came in hot with a series of clotheslines and just a whole lot of different things that happened within that. And finally, Steffi was able to get the upper hand by going outside of the ring and attacking the rest of Top Tier. And then Ariel Sky took advantage of Coach Campanelli's distraction and pinned her for the 1, 2, 3. And yeah, Team Bully Busters won, in a sense, if you could call them that, because they definitely did fight those bullies off and they won, and they really had the upper hand here. And it was a really great 6-woman tag team match, I will say. Even though it was a little awkward that Ariel didn't really get in and have a whole lot of action, but when she did get that pin on Coach, it was definitely like a statement made with it. So I appreciated that. So Katrina, how did you feel about this 6-woman tag and the trajectory of this revenge story?
I liked it. I think, one, it was nice to see Steffi really get some shine here. And we've kind of been saying so far for this season, she's kind of been a lot of, unfortunately, more misses than hits with the matches she's been in. And so to kind of have her where she was thriving, and not that the last time, it's nice to see that we're getting multiple wins now. Because like before, it was like, oh, okay, like y'all doing Steffi dirty. But it's good to see that she kind of have like another, I guess, a win in the column for her on her on in that regard. I do like that they're with Ariel Sky, and I will agree to an extent that it was a bit weird not to see Ariel Sky, but I also took it as like maybe they gave her a bit of a break because I feel like she's been dealing with Top Tier for some weeks and having to deal with not only with people but by herself. And so I think this was kind of a nice little reprieve to an extent that she didn't have to do as much work. But even with her not even have to do any work, the fact that they still pulled off the victories just speaks to that clearly somebody was fed up. Somebody was fed up. Uh and they got the win. And I'm kind of with them on that. Like, yeah, with You won the trios titles or the champ. You won that, and yet what do we have to show for it? What do we have to show for you guys technically being one of the top groups in WoW? And so I'm kind of there too. Like if y'all gonna be doing all these shenanigans, you gotta put your money where your mouth is. Like you're doing too much. I feel like in that case, y'all better stop defending. Personally, I would have been X for one, but that's just me. But I think this was a really good match, and I was really glad that Steffi, Little J Boogie, and Ariel got the
Yeah, I was really happy about that too. And I just can't even imagine how good Ariel Sky had to feel after getting the cover on the woman who just embarrassed her. I feel like we keep coming back to that moment, and we are definitely going to talk about that moment later on in the show, because it was mentioned again in the episode. But at the same time, it's just like to be able to get the victory on someone who underestimated you for so long and just made you feel like you were less than for so long just had to feel good to her. So it was really cool. And yeah, the part about giving Ariel a break, I didn't even think about that at all because she kind of has been ripping and running a bit. So I do, commend them if that was their, motivation to giving her a break, with that. Because that could take a toll on you and the body and all the above. So I definitely get that 100%. And for all of top tier, just bragging about, how they're the best team in WoW all the time, for them to not defend their title or choose not to defend it, it's just like I feel like that's a slap in the face to the other women who could have an opportunity at that. Plus, on top of that, it's just like I feel like that just doesn't show that you actually are top tier. It's giving like middle tier or lower tier if you're going to be honest about it, because I mean, how do you expect yourself to be a top team if you're not defending the title that you won, whether by nefarious means or not? Like, it just makes no sense. Like, it really makes no sense. It just seems like they just became a team just to be bullies to everybody else and then sort of have the notion that they're on top of everybody else just to make themselves feel good. And that's not nice. That's not right. So I feel like with this victory, Little J Boogie, Ariel Sky, and Steffi Slays definitely have cause to challenge them for that trios title if they, really want to prove that they're bad. But we do have to wait and see, what happens with that. But I was really happy to see them get the win. I was happy to see Steffi be as fierce as I always felt that, she could be with that, other gear that we felt like she had. And it was just really good. And Lil J Boogie continues to get better. So it's just great. I really like this match. It was a good start. So moving on to match number two. We had Fury, who came out with Rebel Haze in a singles match against Ice Cold. Now, of course, since Exile is no longer a thing, and Genesis has been humbled a bit by Princess Aussie, even though she would argue on social media that she hasn't been, because she did have some words with me on social media about what we had to say, in terms of her losing to Princess Aussie and her being, 0-2 against her. But, it's okay. Follow us on social media if you want to get into the vibes because it gets fun. Um, Ice Cold is also trying to find her way as a single star here again. And it's so funny because she made her debut as a singles WoW superhero. So to see her now be on her own again was just really interesting. But it was still, solid nonetheless. Ice Cold and Fury sort of had a strength challenge with each other, sort of battling back and forth with their lockups and then yanking on each other's hair for mind game purposes. And then Fury also had, the X factor of having Rebel Haze out there, and Rebel was trying to distract Ice Cold, a little bit. But Ice Cold seemed to have it scouted just a little, and then she knocked her off of the apron and just kicked her off. But it was a nice little back and forth until um well, yeah, it was a nice little back and forth until Ice Cold actually hit a leg lariat, and then Fury then hit a brain buster on her, but then Ice Cold still kicked out. It was a nice little back and forth between the two in terms of, kicking out of each other's moves. You almost couldn't tell who was going to win. It was interesting. And then Ice Cold then hit a backflip slam for the 3 count, and she wound up winning the match. And what's so funny is that she was so indoctrinated in exile that she almost hit the X symbol for exile, but then had to stop herself. And then she lifted up her arms in victory after that. So I was like, wow, like she really, like, it's kind of like when you're so used to doing something that you are used to going somewhere that when you don't have to do it, you're just kind of awkward about it. And you're just like, oh, yeah, I don't have to do that anymore. So this is where Ice Cold is now. She's rising above. And I think it's interesting how that's happening. And just the victory that she got over Fury. So, Kat, how did you feel about this match?
I thought it was a good one. I feel like when we first saw Ice Cold, you know, she had good matches, but we were very unsure of what her role was in WoW. And it felt like at some point she was also struggling
because
with
I'm un.
it felt like she was struggling to figure out her place in WoW, but rather just as what kind of wrestler she wanted to be in that regard, or what if she wanted to align herself with anybody, and then she did. And it took her even some time to even align with anybody. Like she was kind of bouncing between things. And so when she finally get into a group and it seems like all is going well, she got her footing, everything is great. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh, okay, it's like none of that ever meant anything. And so to kind of go from that when you were already struggling to now have to re-find your footing as a single star and to get a win, I thought that was great, And this is no shade to Fury, because I think Fury's great. It's just with regard to, at least with Fury, she's always like, she had her little moment where she was solo, or she was trying to see if she wanted to be solo, but for the most part she's had her some kind of a squad, around her. In this case, Ice Cold kind of like had people, but they weren't really necessarily what was best for her, which is why she felt like she was bouncing around. And then she got something where I guess she kind of thought, but even though we felt that she fit in a little better, we can see the discord between them in that group, even though we thought she did fit better, that she got better as far as her footing. And so I think this is a good win. I feel like if she had any knock of confidence because of what's been going on, this is a good way to boost that confidence. I do think the match was really good, and I'm glad that even with Rebel trying to do little things to, help, Fury in this regard, that Ice Cold was still able to pull off a victory. And I think that speaks to her determination that I guess even if she's going to have to be solo again, she's going to do what she needs to do. And I respect that always. So good match.
Yeah, it really was a good match. And it's so interesting you mentioned, how Fury was kind of in a group at one point, and it's almost like a common theme in the first half of the show is sort of like comfort zones. And coming out of them, like I just had that revelation right then. Um, it's just Fury was, she did have like a group where Mesmeriah and oh my gosh, I'm blanking. I'm sorry. Mesmeriah and her friend, and the other heavy metal sister was around her and everything, and she had to sort of find herself. And now
Razor.
Razor, there we go. I'm so sorry. Like, and Razor, I'm so sorry. Oh my gosh, it's been a long day. Um, but she had her girls around her, and she's sort of being used to. She was finding her way being by herself, but then it was just like she found a kindred spirit in Rebel Haze, and she fell back into the comfort pattern. Whereas Ice Cold has been sort of thrust out into the deep again. Not to make any swimming references, because once upon a time she was a swimmer. She was thrown out into the deep end, once exile ended, and now she's sort of trying to find her way in uncomfortable waters again. And it seemed like she has a better grip on it, in terms of adapting to where she's going to be at this point. Since she is going to be by herself, it's going to take her some time to sort of break that habit, like she did, in the like after she won. But at the same time, the way that she was carrying herself in the match and the way that she fought Fury off, it was still, on point. So she really has seemed she's on a good trajectory of finding herself. Whereas Fury might be falling back into those comfortable patterns, because earlier this season, she did say that she wanted to have a solo career. And do her very best to get to the top of the WoW superheroes ladder, but she's sort of fallen back into the tag team thing. And I'm wondering if that's something that she feels a way about, or if that's something that she's okay with. I don't know. But this match was really good on the part of both ladies, but definitely Ice Cold is out here and she did a phenomenal job here as well. So yeah, we're just breaking out of comfort zones in this episode. So after that, we had match number 3, which was the Brat Pack, BK Rhythm and Gigi Gianni versus the Dojo Defenders in a rematch from the last time that they fought. And of course, they did show a recap before the match got started of the last time they faced off against each other, which ended in a no contest because Tara Strike was lighting BK up with lots of kicks, in which they said that it might have either broken her jaw or knocked her jaw loose, but either way, it hurt her and they had to stop the match due to safety. And of course, we have to go into her bars. BK's bars ran rampant here, and she essentially cut a diss track on the Dojo Defenders, but more specifically Tara Strike. She said, "Y'all straight from the dojo? Psst, these two in the ring, they ain't got no flow. Me and Gigi, we're all shock and awe. I can still trash talk with a broken jaw." And in my notes after she said that, I was just like, who she thinks she is? Kanye West? Cause every time I think about Jaws and rap, I just always think about how Kanye West basically like rapped through the wire when he had his mouth wired shut after his car accident. Now, of course, Kanye West is very polarizing at this point, but of course, in his earlier point of his career, that was top tier stuff. Okay, so that's just what I think about, just in terms of people and their jaws and rapping and stuff. It's just like, oh, okay, well, yeah, I guess you Kanye West now, early Kanye West, anyway. But yeah. At this point, BK, once the match gets started, BK, is mocking Kara Kai and her martial arts moves. But then when Kara decides to like hit one of her moves on her, she backs away and goes to the corner and tags in Gigi. And I was like, you coward. How dare you talk all that trash in that diss track only for you to like back away from her and then tagging your partner. You're hilarious. And Kara just like decides to light up Gigi with a bunch of kicks, to her side. And then of course Kara tags in. Well, Kara tagged in Tara, and then Tara comes in and she gets ready to kick Gigi, and Gigi's like, "No, please don't do that to me. Like, I don't want to, I don't want to deal with that." But she winds up luring her into her falling into the turnbuckle, and her and BK proceed to isolate Tara away from her partner for a good majority of the match, attack her with their knees and so many other attacks and everything. And it was just, and then another thing that Gigi did, which was a really good strategy, was that she started attacking Tara's knees so she wouldn't be able to kick either her and BK. And I thought that was a very sound strategy. They were tying her leg up in the ropes and everything. Like, it was really smart. But eventually, once Tara was able to tag in Kara, Kara came in with the quickness and started beating up on everybody, hitting clothesline strikes, and then she hit a really impressive Northern Light suplex. She knocked out BK Rhythm, and then Kara was able to cover Gigi with after hitting her Eat Defeat, and they won. So the Dojo Defenders got their lick and beat the Brat Pack. And this was a pretty good back and forth match. So Katrina, how did you feel about this tag team match, and how do you feel about the trajectory of where the Dojo Defenders can go?
I think they're in a good trajectory, honestly. I feel like they've been pretty, for the most part, pretty dominant on the matches since they've debuted. And, you already know how I feel about BK's bars. It's just so unnecessary. Just taking TV time with nonsense. It's just like, girl, see, you're doing too much. You're doing too much. But, you know, what I can say about BK and Gigi is I do think they work very well together. I really do. And so I think that as agitating as the bars are, I do think they have a really good dynamic. But what I would say in regards to Dojo Defenders, what they may have a leg up on BK and Gigi is because they kind of came together as a package. And I always feel like package deals teams, I feel like they usually work a lot better than a team that's thrown together. And this is not saying that a team thrown together cannot work. It's not saying that you can join somebody else and it doesn't work, but I do think there is a different level of trust. I think there's a different level of communication that comes from a group that were already part of a group, like they were already a unit. And so I think in this regard, you know, they use that to their advantage in this match. I think their trajectory, like I can very well see them, going for some tag titles. I can very well see that happen because they're on such a good trajectory now. Could I change them off for two? Of course it can, but I do think that if they continue doing what they're doing, if they continue just kind of sticking to what they do and sticking to communicating well in teams that might have been around in WoW longer or been in the locker room longer, that's very possible they can be one of the contenders for the tag titles. Like I can literally see that happening, and I will not be surprised.
Yeah, me neither, because they are really good and they really do have that hunger about them. So I definitely see that happening. There's a part of me that also wants to see another match between, I guess, them once they're there longer versus the Mighty Mites. I just feel like that would just be a very, amazing and very fast-paced tag team match in terms of WoW. And then you have like the differing of styles between them all. So I feel like that would be really cool. And if they did decide to challenge for the tag titles, depending on who's the champion, it really doesn't matter because I'm pretty sure they could have a good match with the Mother Truckers. Um, Depending on who's the champion, though, I feel like it would be really cool and it'll be a great opportunity for them because, like I said, they have that hunger, they have the ability, and the fact that they were able to step up against, a tag team that's been together a little bit longer on WoW in terms of television, in terms of BK and Gigi was just really cool. Um, and I also want to give props to the Brat Pack because they definitely amended their strategy of how they were going to fight the Dojo Defenders because of what happened last time. They were backing away from them and acting like they were scared, but in actuality, they were trying to break them down. And I actually appreciated that part of the match, a whole lot. So big ups to the Bret Pack for that. But I am just super happy that the Dojo Defenders won. I will also like to say that I think it's amazing that we're talking about the Dojo Defenders on today, seeing as today is, in terms of women's wrestling history, the third anniversary of NWA's Empower, which took place in St. Louis, which I was happy to attend and do media for. And on top of that, that was where I saw Tootie Lynn, who is Terror Strike on WoW, for the very first time as she, battled in that battle royal for the NWA Women's Invitational trophy. And she had a great back and forth with Chelsea Green, who's on WWE now, who at the time was just, blazing a trail in the indies. So just falling in love with Tootie Lynn and seeing the reception that she got in her hometown of St. Louis was just mind blowing for me. And I was so happy to get to meet her and talk to her and all the stuff even then. And I just find that it's just so beautiful that 3 years later, you're still seeing so many women that were in that show, like doing amazing things in women's wrestling even now. And it's just so beautiful how it just changed the trajectory of my life personally and let me know what I could actually do and contribute in this space. So I just find it amazing in a very full circle way that we're talking about her on a television show, a nationally syndicated television show. That just goes to show you if you keep working hard and if you believe in yourself, you can make your dreams come true. And Tara Strike slash Tootie Lynn is living proof of that. So I just wanted to give that part and just, just sing congratulations to her for that because that's just crazy how in 3 years you go from getting cheered in your hometown at NWA to now being on television. It's just that's the stuff that about wrestling that I love. That's the stuff about life that I love. So, yeah. Let me get off of that mushy soapbox. As we move on. So they did show a recap of what happened when the WoW World Tag Team Champions, the Mother Truckers, pretended to be a part of Lana Star's posse and went in her hotel room and, splurged on the 5-star amenities and stuff. So they showed what happened afterward and how Lana Star and the Carlson sisters went to the hotel and were about to check in, but then they ran into a bill and said, "Look, you can't check in unless you pay this bill." And when they looked on the bill, they had regular soda and cheese on there, and they was like, we don't even drink regular soda. Who ordered this?" And then Lori had the idea and said, "Well, I bet if we looked at the cameras, we could go see who ordered this and all of the above." So um and then another thing that was hilarious was Lana Star like saying, "I need to speak to a manager right now." And she sounded so much like Chelsea Green in that moment, or just like your average everyday person. It's just like, I want to speak to your manager. Like that's just what she sounded like. And it was just interesting, but it was really funny. So I'm pretty sure we're gonna see more of that as the episodes go on, because we didn't see more of what they found in this episode, but we'll probably see it this weekend. But it was pretty hilarious. And I'm more than sure they're gonna be pretty upset when they find out that Holly and Betty were the ones who were running up their hotel bill. Oh my god, that is just so funny. Maybe next time they'll Airbnb, or maybe they're just too rich for that. I don't know. But anyway, moving on to match number 4, we had Reina Del Rey versus Sandy Shore, and of course, Sandy Shore came out with Crystal Waters. This is really interesting in the fact that we rarely see Spring Break 24/7 in singles action. We normally see them a lot of the time in tag team action. So when Reina came out there and they said that she was going to be fighting Sandy, I was like, oh, this is interesting. But it actually wasn't interesting. It was very well, it was interesting, but at the same time, it was also very destructive because Raina kind of just destroyed Sandy in a very sad way. She was pushing her and swatting her like she was just a fly. And every time Sandy kept trying to get some offense in, it just wasn't working. She tried to use her strength to get ahead of her. She tried to use her speed to get ahead of Raina, and it just was not working for anything in this world. And I just felt so sorry for her. And even with um Crystal rooting her on and getting the crowd to root her on and everything, it was to no avail. Raina essentially beat her after Sandy tried to fight back, but then she got clothesline and then swatted down, and then she hit a back clothesline, to the back of her head, and that was the end of that match. So Reina Del Rey beat her in pretty short order, and then she proceeded to beat up on Crystal Waters as well. So yeah, Katrina, how did you feel about this match?
Well, I can I can always respect some effort, but I feel like in this case, you know, she basically Rena Del Rey basically ran through her. It was very unfortunate that it was that kind of match. I feel like at one point it was crazy. I feel like I don't know if this was one of those situations where, Brandon felt like she had something to prove in that regard. I don't know if it was one of those type of, scenarios, but it was the fact that she did all of that and then still like afterwards went up and beat up Kurt. You're like, oh, shock. Like that's a bit much, don't you think? Like, all right, girl, we got the message. We see it. We see it. We seen it. Like, I thought it was a lot. I was like, oh my god, like poor girls. Like, summer's ending soon, and I felt like this is one of those situations. Like, she's pretty much saying like spring and summer's over. Like, it was just so extra. it, and this is not. This is like I said. I think Rita there has amazing skills, but I felt like she literally it was kind of like I want to say what is the saying? I'm trying to think of it, like mop the floor. I think that's the saying when they say you like mop the floor with somebody. I feel like that's kind of what happened in this match. Poor girl. I was just like, oh, okay. Like I didn't know she deserved this. Like, but like that's a bit aggressive, a bit much. Um. So for what it wasn't bad. But I did feel like it was more so she was like, have a proof point, and she did. And to be fair, I kind of been trying to figure out where Rena Del Rey has been kind of on the card, just in regards to she kind of had, where she was like. wanting a title. Then she had a bit of a feud, and then she kind of was like a to an extent, even some semi like guard to Adriana Gambino. And so then it was like, well, where is she? What's going to happen with her? And so it was nice to see her in that regard. But I'm like, girl, I mean, I know you've been gone a little bit, but Jesus, like you didn't have to do all that. That was a bit much. So for what it wasn't bad. I just felt like she literally just mopped the floor. It was insane of how like I said, they and I say neither of Spring Break because she got them both. I feel like neither one of them really had any chance. It was one of those just like, oh, it's tough. It's a tough scenario to be in. Um, yeah, it was unfortunate.
Yeah, it was unfortunate, but I am happy that you mentioned that Raina was gone for a minute because it seemed like at one point, she was actually being muscle for Adriana, who wanted to, I guess, mess with Princess Aussie to prove a point. And to me, I guess creatively, or at least the way that I thought about it in my head, I thought that this was Adriana Gambino's way of saying that there shouldn't be any more challengers to the Wild World title because she should be because she's undefeated. And I thought that maybe her and Reina had some weird deal where she was just using her godmother, godfather powers in order to, bulldoze through WoW. But then nothing happened with that. And then we just didn't see Reina for a while. And then Reina popped back up. And I was just like, oh, okay, there you are. I don't know. What happened in that regard, but something that I did see on social media is that Adriana Gambino has been posting things, so hopefully, she will be back in season 3, and we will, get a continuation of that because Miss Ma'am is still very much um the main girl who could face off against the Bees for the Wild World title
Because
because she
I'm
is.
undefeated.
I mean, so with her still being undefeated, then she should be, first in line, but it seems like everybody else seems to be, trying to take their place and be all dirty to the beast at this point and attacking her from behind and mugging her and all this stuff. So I don't know. But hopefully, Reina Del Rey, can find her way back into the swing of things too, because she is such an imposing athlete on WoW. And she is just not to be trifled with at all. And sadly, Sandy Shore and Crystal Waters learned that lesson the hard way. So, yeah, you hate to see it, but that's what happened. And Reina Del Rey won the match. So, before we get to our main event, there was an announcement made. So, WoW and David and and everybody in WoW has decided to give fans their flowers by making an announcement and basically saying that within 2 weeks there will be a WoW fan appreciation night where they've assigned 3 judges to judge 4 super matches, and depending on who wins between the judges, they will air that match to like as a form of appreciation for the WoW fans. And the judges that they chose were Jim Barceloni, who writes for the Miami Herald in Miami, Florida. Tony Maglio, please forgive me if I'm mispronouncing you guys' last name. I charge it to my head and not my heart. Executive editor of IndieWire, and of course, Jeannie Buss, who is part owner of WoW and sole owner, I believe, of the Los Angeles Lakers. So they will be judging 4 matches. And whichever one they choose will be airing in 2 weeks as appreciation to the fans. And the choices of matches are Princess Aussie versus Reina Del Rey with the revenge match because of how she attacked her with the chair. The second one is the Mother Truckers versus Miami Sweet Heat in their no holds barred match for the Wild Tag Team titles, where the Mother Truckers won. Um, the third match is Exile versus Top Tier in the Wild Trios tournament finals, where, of course, the heel turn of the century took place. And the fourth match is the Beast versus Abilene Maverick for the Wild World title, in which Abilene planted the brass knuckles. So they did encourage fans to go on YouTube, find their favorite match out of those four and comment, why you think those matches deserve to be chosen. And of course, we will see it in 2 weeks with that. So I'm really excited about which one is going to be chosen. So, Katrina, which out of those matches, which ones are your favorite, if you could put in your 2 cents?
Oh man, no. I can't think I can pick one. I feel like I wouldn't mind any of that, honestly. I love a good like. I think because we don't have too many all women promotions. If we whatever we can get, I'm down for. So I don't know if I even have like a choice. I think I will be actually really happy with any one of those matches, honestly.
Yeah, I absolutely understand that. See, I am of the notion you probably know which one I'm gonna pick too. Like the one I'm gonna pick is the trios. It's the trios tournament finals because I just really feel like, in my opinion, that was one of the greatest heel turns this whole year. Like, even though there's probably so many different stories that get so much attention during this year in wrestling because it's one of the hottest years we've seen thus far in our fandoms. I just really feel like it could not be understated or overstated how much that heel turn of Coach Campanelli was just out of this world for me. Like, because you had Coach who was just so frustrated with the idea that Ariel just went behind her back and chose to add members of Team Spirit. And what does she do when they make it all the way to the finals and they do all of that work? She sits them down, she benches them, has them celebrate the win, and then proceeds to embarrass them. Now, I am a baby face through and through, but sometimes I have my tendencies where I do enjoy heel work. And that was one of the most dastardly things I've ever seen in my life, in my wrestling life. That was just so dastardly the way that it was done. I, it was a master plan. So that's my vote. I feel like that is my vote right there. But of course, it's we can give our 2 cents, but ultimately it's up to the judges. So hopefully, they'll make their choice and it'll be cool and it'll be something we can all enjoy as WoW fans. But either way, that's my pick and I'm sticking to it. So yeah, I just thought that was really nice and that was a really nice sentiment, to give to the fans and stuff. So yeah, it was really cool. That was a really cool announcement. And then they also made the announcement that this weekend on WoW, we're going to get a really cool tag team match between the Fierce Sisters, Roxy and Foxy versus the Classmaster, and we're going to have a surprise of who her tag team partner is going to be. Because the last time we saw Samantha Smart referring or talking to the disciplinarian, it was they were not having nice words with each other over the phone. So for all we know, Samantha Smart could be, recruiting somebody else to be a part of Team IQ Superior if she's not fighting herself, which she has not done. So yeah, it's gonna be really interesting. But I am excited to see Roxy and Foxy in tag team action. Because ever since they got together, I have been here for it. So I'm definitely ready to see them fight. So yeah, it's gonna be really cool this weekend. So we've come to our main event, which was Penelope Pink versus Tormenta. And let me just say, I loved Lana's T-shirt that she had on for this match, where it said "Queen of the Universe," and I was just like, yes. Now, Lana Star and I might not see eye to eye on a lot of things, but something that we do see eye to eye on is her fashion. Girl, she be dressing. But Katrina, you go ahead and take over.
No, she was definitely looking nice. Girly was definitely dressed to the nines. She was. So the match did start off with Penelope coming out with Lana and Vicky Lynn, and Lana had some words she needed to say to Sophia Lopez, basically being a bit upset that she basically blamed Sophia for the titles being lost. It was basically that's what she was saying. She was like she couldn't forgive or forget that if Sophia didn't do what she did, the title would not have been lost, etc., etc., etc. And so they kind of came out already on that type of time. And so Tormenta, came out, Sophia came out and it got right to it pretty quickly into the action, which I really did appreciate. I thought there was a lot of good back and forth between them. At one point I did feel I like Penelope, but at one point she was doing a lot of like being very cocky where she was pausing to like go to the audience pauses to like do what they do a bit flaunting a bit like how she is when she's wrestling. There was a couple of moments where Vicky was trying to like interfere with Tormenta, where she was doing things off when the referee wasn't paying attention, or he seemed more focused on Penelope, so Vicky would kind of do her thing off on the side. There was a slam that Tormenta did that was like, I was like, this, and see, this is girly, girly, girly. Like, I was like, oh yes. But then Penelope was able to like reverse another move that Tormenta I thought was really well done. And I was like, I know you have your beef with Penelope, but this is why I'm like, see, but the girl can wrestle. Like, it's like hard to, when she can wrestle. They really, I felt really kind of was very hard hitting to an extent, both of them. There was a moment I kind of thought that Tormenta was going to take it, only because it looked like Penelope was a little bit thrown off, because Tormenta was like, "We're going to get you back in the ring." Like, she went out to the audience, she was talking stuff about Tormenta to the audience. They were bragging all this, and Tormenta got her back into the ring, basically. But even with the like that final push from Tormenta, Penelope would win this matchup, and I was like, oh, I was a little surprised. Just because it seemed like at points that Tormenta probably had it, but Penelope did win this matchup. And I was like, oh, all right, well, all right. It wasn't like it was. I thought it was a really good matchup. That both ladies really did their things and very hard hitting. And like I said, it was good back and forth between them. But I do think Penelope did take a lot of time to be a bit cocky in moments during the match. And I'm always for like, you can brag, but also, you know, do that after you win a match. And while she did win it in this regard, I'm a firm believer. Like, let's not do all this. Like, it's like celebrating before the final win. Like, you can't be doing that. You can't be celebrating as a. I think Kobe had that mindset. Like, you don't celebrate till it's over. And so like that mindset of you do your job first and then you celebrate. And so while she did win it, I did think she spent a little too much time with this shit talking and kind of getting the audience like basically saying that they were the better and all that other stuff. And I was like, well, that was unnecessary, but she did win it. So I guess it worked in her favor in that regard. But I thought both of them really killed it. And I thought at points Tormenta was probably going to win, but I guess in a way Penelope got a little bit of revenge because they blamed her for the reason why the title being gone from Penelope. And so they got a little bit of revenge. I don't know if they're going to do anything else after this, but it was a good match.
Yeah. See, that's the thing. Penelope Pink does not believe in not bigging herself up all the time because she is her biggest fan. Um, I really believe she is her biggest fan. So her talking trash to Tormenta while the match is going on and she hasn't even finished the job just makes complete sense as to who she is. She's just so, yeah, she just thinks she's above it all and above everyone else. So that just makes all the sense in the world. And yeah, it's just like Kobe said, like the job's not finished. Like when you really celebrate, and this was during the finals, I think. It's like, yeah, you can celebrate, the win or celebrate yourself doing well, but until the job is finished, no. And that's that Mamba mentality, and that's also that Virgo mentality as well, because he was a Virgo and his birthday just passed. Happy heavenly birthday to him. So yeah, like it's legit. That's really legit. And Penelope Pink, as much as I don't like her for real, she be wrestling down. And I gotta give her credit. Like she wrestles down and you don't, and I feel like even though it might get on your nerves sometimes, I feel like you don't talk that big unless you know you can back it up. And Miss Ma'am can back it up. I just give her a hard time because she talks so big. Like, stop it. But but yeah, and then Tormenta, I just feel like she is just always amazing. She's just consistently good, and I want her to have a big opportunity at some point, within while maybe next season she'll have a chance to become, the champion that she's always wanted to be. Um or even, with that idea you had about that we both had about, having, another title or something, like even if she were to win something like that, I would be okay with it too. So, yeah, that sounds like a pretty solid ending, to a pretty pretty cool episode. So we've reached the end of our time together. Of course, thank you all so much for watching our show live if you're able to. And of course, if you haven't been able to, you can go on both of our YouTube channels and watch it. And of course, we always encourage every wrestling fan who watches this show to please go and watch WoW and support them and support women's wrestling as a whole, because every woman in wrestling does this because they absolutely love it. So we support them, and as they support us. So just continue to support all of women's wrestling, and because we're just continuing to, they're just continuing to make so much history and break so many barriers, and it's just really great and inspirational to see. So please watch Wow Superheroes because they are a part of that. Um, evolution when it comes to women's wrestling. It's an hour-long show. So of course you can go on wowe.com and check out what times it comes on and what channel it comes on for you if you type in your zip code of where you live in the United States. You can also watch it on Hulu, you can watch it on Vice TV, and you can also watch it on Pluto TV where they're actually crafting a WoW superhero section where you can watch all of the WoW content. So be on the lookout for that. Plus Pluto is free, so you don't have to pay for it. Um, and you can also watch their matches that they post the Monday after their episode airs on their YouTube channel, which is Wow Superheroes, and subscribe to them so you can see all of their content there too. And after you watch the episode, you can come watch us on the best Wow Post show on the planet on Steph and Cat Talk Wow every Wednesday unless otherwise announced or stated because life be life. And of course, you can watch all of our interviews on our YouTube channels as well. We've been so blessed and fortunate to have a lot of the WoW superheroes on our show and interview them. And we hope to continue that trajectory and with the rest of this year into next year. And of course, as they start their new season. So it's going to be great. So, Katrina, thank you so much for joining me as usual. Tell everybody where they can find and follow you and what you've got going on.
You guys can follow me on social media and Cat We Trust, the easy three, every place but Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook. Just keep track of me on my channel. I have like a lot of stuff. I'm working a lot of shows in the next few months. So everything has just been. I feel like every time I think I have a little break to do other things, I'm like, nope, I don't have a break. There's something else coming on. And so first it was mom stuff, and now it's back to mom stuff, but also new shows. And so I'll be working quite a few shows in the next few months. So if you are in the New York area or New Jersey area and you would like to see me, sure you stop by at the show. And then outside of Wednesdays normally with Steph for the Steph and Cat Talk, well, you can catch me on bodyslam.net with my 20 twin Shade Talk number 2 NXT after show.
Awesome sauce. She's everywhere, guys. She's everywhere. So please support that because it's great. So, of course, you can follow me, your girl Stephanie Hardy, on Instagram and X/Twitter at Queen Steph Hardy. You can listen to my show, The Hardy Wrestling Podcast, everywhere you get audio podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts. You can listen to it also on YouTube and other places, Spotify as well. You can subscribe to the YouTube channel, which is The Hardy Wrestling Podcast with the purple, pink, and white logo with HWP in the middle. You can also follow Hardy Wrestling Podcast on Twitter at Hardy WrestlePod and on Instagram at Hardy Wrestling Podcast. I do have a new episode out called Punk is Taylor, Roman is Beyonce. So please listen to that, as well as be on the lookout for my prediction shows for Bash in Berlin, as well as NXT No Mercy. I will be doing prediction shows for that, and also read my editorials on Daily DDT. I do have a new one out talking about all the reasons why WWE needs women's mid card titles. So if you have not read that already, please do, and also read my other works as well. And just continue to support your girl on her wrestling journey because stuff is happening. People are growing, changes are happening, and it's great. So we just have to adapt to it. So it's really awesome. So, of course, this has been Steph and Cat Talk Wow, brought to you by the Hardy Wrestling Podcast and In Cat We Trust. And until next time, bye, y'all.